the world, natural resources are under increasing pressure. These resources are getting scarcer by the day. People are now beginning to realize that the sustainable management of these resources is directly linked to active participation of concerned stakeholders. These include those depending on the natural resource base for their livelihoods, subsistence and cultural identities. Issues related to resource use, control, access and customary values are related to the territory and have all spatial dimensions. In these contexts, the use of modern spatial information technologies can play an important role in visualizing, georeferencing and adding authority to local knowledge. In developing countries, the use of these technologies is often externally driven and geared towards data management instead of community empowerment. Over the years, participatory mapping has rapidly grown and spread both in scope and use, from the humble beginnings of sketch mapping in the 80s to today's sophisticated use of spatial information technologies by community members or technology intermediaries operating on their behalf. In September 2005, in Nairobi, Kenya, a number of institutions organized an international gathering of practitioners and researchers to address issues related to the use of spatial information technologies and systems at grassroots level. For 3 days, the Kenya College of Communications and Technology played host to a special event dealing with a practice becoming better known as participatory GIS. As many as 156 practitioners, activists, indigenous peoples and researchers from 45 countries attended the event. Practitioners and innovators scattered throughout the world and often working in isolation came together to share experiences, new ideas and visions. The conference was organized by a number of development agencies led by the International Institute for Geoinformation Science and Earth Observation, ITC, and the Technical Center for Agricultural and Rural Cooperation, CTA.
You know, CTA's mandate is to produce information in the fields of agriculture, rural development, food security and management of natural resources for the demand in 79 African, Caribbean and Pacific countries. In this regard, this conference covering PGIS but also 3D modeling seems to be ideal to both producing information, ensuring that local communities can transport their messages to political leaders for their decision making, and also to decide on what kind of channels may be used. Now here, 3D mapping and PGIS seem to be ideal communication channels, which is the second, so to say, mandate of CTA, deciding about what are the most appropriate tools for communication.
Since the early 80s, participatory GIS has greatly advanced and is currently used in various community development initiatives and projects worldwide. Available information shows that participatory GIS has a great potential to empower individuals and communities, contribute to the development of place-based methodologies, promote more inclusive community spatial decision-making, and incorporate multiple realities of landscape.
There used to be sort of schools, but people would say, I'm a PRA practitioner, or I would say, I'm doing appreciative inquiry, or planning for real, or participatory technology development, or participatory theatre, or participatory videos. What's happened is that there's been an explosion and an enormous amount of sharing has gone on. And we're in a situation now in which we don't really have schools of we don't have schools in participation. We have a whole range of approaches and methods which people can draw on, which mix and match for particular circumstances. And the one which has spread more than any other, and has been adopted in almost every context, is mapping. Participatory mapping has just gone all over the place.
So lack of trust initially on the outsiders is disabling.
Based on a number of case studies presented, follow-up discussions and interactive exercises, the participants examined enabling and disabling environments for PGIS practice in their respective countries.
That's what you suggested. Yes.
Basically relates to the poor acceptability by government of a GIS. We heard already where government doesn't allow any kind of mapping.
It emerged that enabling cultural, legal, technical and political environments are prerequisites for PGIS practice to be successfully implemented. Partnerships between local communities and technology intermediaries, mainly NGOs, appear to be the most ideal combination. When local people learn a modern technology which commands respect, they may be empowered. Moreover, because maps are so powerful, trust between technology intermediaries and local people becomes critical. It was astonishing how often the word trust was mentioned at the conference.
In the Philippines, we consistently and regularly enhance our skills to gain the respect of government counterparts. Now, they have to respect you so that they will work with you.
Well, number one, you have to show that you're competent. In spite of the fact that there is resistance, there is criticism, a good product always sells itself. If your product can answer and respond to all of these criticisms, they will have no choice but to eventually change their minds and accept it. Number two, what we do is something that is necessary. It is endorsed by the people, supported by the people, such as, in fact, right now, even if government sometimes doesn't want what we do, they ask us to partner with them to implement several government programs and policies that respond to the needs of indigenous peoples. We've been partnering with a lot of local governments and helping them out, come out with participatory maps that will define local land uses. We've also partnered with government to help them facilitate conflict resolution in a lot of areas where there's conflict. We've also partnered with government so that they can implement the law that help people file claims and help people do delineation of ancestral lands.
Then there is the challenge of conflict management, which is always at the center of natural resource access, control and management.
If GIS brings in these issues automation, and once you are able to digitize a map or capture a map into the GIS, you can display it consistently. So if it is a boundary, the people will have confidence in that boundary that you've drawn, because there is no possibility, unless you change it, it will always be consistent. The boundary will be consistent. As a result, it really assumes confidence in the people who are dealing with it. I know in the Kosovo conflict, a GIS application was used in the mediation effort that resolved the conflict.
One important theme of the conference has been supporting identity building among indigenous peoples and rural communities. Reiko Yoshida took the participants through a presentation on the current Convention on Intangible Cultural Heritage, where she explained that UNESCO wants to involve community members as genuine partners in safeguarding their ever-evolving heritage.
This intangible cultural heritage, transmitted from generation to generation, is constantly recreated by communities and groups in response to their environment, their interaction with nature and their history, and provides them with a sense of identity and continuity, thus promoting respect for cultural diversity and human creativity.
The participatory mapping is actually people themselves doing the mapping, telling their culture, their heritage, and so forth. So it has actually helped people to understand the San, that it's not actually Bushmen people as the noun, but actually people who knows the language, the culture, rich in history and their heritage.
At the conference, there was a general consensus that networking and communication are key ingredients of good and effective PGIS practice, and that people's maps without adequate advocacy do not lead to destination. Rachel Olson, a Canadian First Nations representative, argued that networking is essential for sharing skills, resources and experiences, and for adding value and authority to local spatial knowledge.
Networking becomes a crucial component of a mapping project's longevity and success. However, creating successful and sustainable networking environments has been a continuing challenge for those seeking to develop and maintain a community of Aboriginal mappers.
On the third and final day of the conference, the participants split into working groups to outline regional ways forward. Across the regions, there was a general consensus that for PGIS to become a widespread practice, there was the need to involve more stakeholders at all levels and to share experiences of both successes and failures in order to continue learning about this growing body of practice.
An open system that is dynamic.
Working towards a good practice to build a community of practice, which is much more than a network, because a community of practice is not only on information sharing, but is on developing a practice of working together to develop a good practice on participatory GIS or community mapping or whatever we want to talk about.
The three-day conference, Mapping for Change, consolidated an emerging worldwide community of practice bonded by skills, values and aspirations. Participants agreed on the need for promoting good practice and the respect of an appropriate code of ethics in the conduct of their work.
If what we do after we leave this conference in our own work and in spreading these practices is half as good as the conference organization has been, the world will be a very much better place. Thank you.